Hey friendly foes, today we're doing something you probably won't have to do too terribly often. We're replacing a toilet. And if you take a look at this one, I think you can see why we're replacing it. It's one of those old, inefficient, and bright yellow models. So we're going to be replacing this with a new modern white one that's also better water efficiency. So first thing, your tools you're going to need. You need both a flathead and a Phillips head screwdriver. You need channel lock pliers, and you need a crescent wrench. That's the one with the little doohickey that you can roll. You also need a cup, like a styrofoam cup or anything. We just cut up a soda bottle. This is just to bail some water out later on. Okay, so today we're just removing this so that I can then do the wallpaper behind it, and then we'll be replacing it in a couple days. But for you it'll be instant because we'll edit them together. So let's get started. So the first thing you're going to do when you go to remove it, you need to turn off your water. Now I'll have John come over here and show you. But right beside the toilet, you can see that little knob there on the wall. You're going to be turning that to turn off the water. So I'm just going to go in here. You turn it to the right. Now ours is only a quarter turn. You might have to crank yours a couple of times. Just keep going until it stops and then the water's off. Next thing you're going to do is take off the top of the toilet. I'm just going to set this down here on a towel. And we're going to flush the toilet, but hold the knob down. Don't let it spring back up again. This is draining all the water out of the tank. See how all the water is draining out? I'm still holding the handle down. See how I'm still holding it up, and then take the water and just sort of bail it out and pour it down that bowl. This will take a couple minutes, a little tedious, but you just want to get as much water as possible out of the tank. I've been bailing for a couple minutes with my cup, and now most of the water is out. We just have a little tiny bit left, so for that, we've got a hand towel. I'm going to throw that in there and soak it up. The reason I'm doing this is because if there's any water left in there, then when you remove the tank, it's just going to all fall out on the floor and it's a mess. So you really want to get this tank dry. Okay, my tank is dry, so the next thing we need to do is disconnect the water valve. So you need your crescent wrench, and if you come over here, John's going to try and get this over my shoulder. Alright, what I'm talking about is this part right here. We're going to be disconnecting from this. So, and you're going to want to hang on to the valve with your other hand, and then turn, like so. There we go, disconnected. Next thing we're going to do is take off the toilet tank. So if John comes over here and looks into the tank, you can see that there are two giant flathead screws in here. See those? So what you're going to do is take your flathead screwdriver, but instead of twisting, you're actually just going to push down and hold this screw in place while you reach under with your other hand and unscrew the nut from the bottom. So let me start with this one. The reason I'm pushing down is there's a rubber bushing in there, so we're compressing it. And as soon as you compress it, the nut underneath gets nice and loose. This is a really awkward angle. So again, I'm just holding down the flathead screw inside the tank with my screwdriver, just applying pressure. And then I'm going to reach around with my other hand and unscrew the nut and bolt. There we go. Okay, both of my nuts and bolts are off. The tank is loose, so all it's left to do is lift it up and go throw it in a dumpster. Voila! The tank is gone, so the next thing is the bowl. So let's get rid of this toilet seat first. Now ours is really old and was rusted into place, so for this I needed my channel locks to hold onto the bolt under here and then unscrew with the Phillips head. Okay, for this next part, I hope you clean the toilet before deciding to replace it because you have to get all the water out of the bowl. That means more bailing. We've got our trusty little soda can here, or soda bottle. So I'm just going to bail this into the tub right next to me. Usually there's a sink or tub right beside the toilet, so just bail it into there. But again, we need all of the water out of the bowl. The water is out of the bowl. There's still going to be a little tiny bit in the very bottom of the bowl, so for that, if you want to just throw in an old rag or a paper towel, something that you're going to chuck anyway, just to absorb those last few bits, that'll be good. You can see I've got an old rag in there. Next thing we're going to do is take off these plastic caps on the bottom. John will zoom in for you. See that? That's covering the bolt holding it to the floor. So we're gonna take those off. Hopefully that just pops off. Take the other one off. Apparently it wasn't even attached, so that's good. And now, let's see, we've got some nuts in here, so we're gonna need a crescent wrench again, and I'm gonna take off those nuts. The bolts are off, my hands are gross. Next thing is to remove the bowl from the floor. Now, your toilet might be caulked down to the floor. If there is caulking there, you're going to want to cut that out. The other usual circumstance is that there's grout, like this one. If it's grouted to the floor, grout actually isn't very strong, so usually you can just break it free gently, which I'm going to try and do right now. So usually you just want to kind of bump it with your leg. There we go. See, that popped right up. Perfect. Okay, so the bowl is all loose. Now all it's left to do is pick it up and haul it out. If your toilet's not too old, it shouldn't be that heavy. These older ones are kind of massive, so, but let's see if I can pick it up. Oh yeah, that's not too bad. So if I can lift it, you can probably lift it. This next part is really gross, guys, and I apologize in advance. You're going to need like a plastic scraper, preferably your least favorite one. And you're going to be removing, see this black ring right here on the floor? This is actually wax. This is a wax ring that helps set the toilet. And you've got to get rid of that so that we can install the new wax ring. So have a scrap piece of cardboard nearby that you're going to scrape this onto. But you're going to just kind of, oh, this is so gross. Again, just keep telling yourself it's wax, because it is. And you're just going to scrape this whole thing off and throw it away. Hey, I might even get it in one piece. Most of the wax ring is now gone. I decided to spare you that on film, but I've scraped around as much as I could. There's my pile of grossness on the floor. So the last step in removing the old toilet is to get rid of these bolts sticking out of the floor. So John's going to come in for a close-up, and you can see all you have to do is wiggle them to the side a bit, and then they pop right up through that hole on the edge. Now you always want to replace these bolts, even if they look okay. It's just better to replace the new ones with the new toilet. It's stronger. So this one goes this way and pops right out. And then go thoroughly disinfect your hands or wear gloves, which I probably should have done. And that's your toilet gone. Next time you see me, we will be installing the new toilet, and we'll walk you through that. It's a couple weeks later, and as you can see, the bathroom's looking a little bit better. We've got a new countertop and faucet, and the walls are all repaired and primed. So I'm in a lovely white box in here, and now we're going to install the toilet. So I've already unpacked it, and I'm going to do this in stages, just like we took the old one out in pieces. We're going to put the new one in pieces. So we're going to start with just the bowl. You need that in here. And then it does come with a wax ring when you buy these in the box. This is the wax ring it came with, but we like to get a thicker one. So this is the wax ring we're going to use today. Comes in a box like this. And this is only going to cost you like $5. But this is a good upgrade, and it's also necessary if you have flooring like ours where there's a tile around where the flange went, so it's raising it up a bit. You just need a thicker wax ring. And the other good thing about this is it also comes with longer bolts, which are also necessary for us, and it might be for you too. So these are the short bolts that came with the new toilet, but they're way too small. These are the bolts that we bought. You can see they're probably too long, honestly, but this is just the next size up that we could find. So again, you might want to take into consideration with your flooring and all that, you might need to buy longer bolts too, okay? So first thing, let me get this out of the way and take this off. So the first thing we're going to do is place these bolts into the flange on the floor. You remember how we took the old ones out of these little channels here? We're going to put these ones in there as well. So you start at the larger end. Sorry if my hand's blocking it. And you just slide that in, just like that. And then, sorry, the spacer's annoying. See this plastic piece? You're going to slide that down to hold it in place. What this does is it helps the bolt stay upright for when you seat the toilet later. Now, the placement of these bolts is very important. You want them to be in a straight line that's parallel to the wall behind it. The reason why is these bolts dictate how the toilet sits and whether or not it's straight. So just do your best to get them, again, straight line here, parallel to the wall behind it. Next, I'm going to place the wax ring. I've already removed it from that plastic outside bit, and you can see there's a plastic black ring there and then the wax on top. You might get some wax on you if you do this, so you might want to wear some latex gloves. I don't really care. So we're going to put this side down, and we're going to place it right inside this hole. Try and get centered, just like that. The next thing we have to do is set the toilet on the wax ring and get those screws coming up through the holes in the base of the toilet. So normally it's good to have 2 people for this because it's very heavy and you want to have the stronger person lifting and the other person spotting. But I'm going to do this myself. So to do this, I'm going to try dragging it. I think this will work. So just keep rolling, John. See what happens. All right. So I'm lifting the heavier part. Oh, that's a nice sound. Dragging it over. There's one screw lined up. Oh, it's so close. There's the other one. Is that one in there? Yes, 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 yes! Okay, my screws are in, but it's not quite straight. You can see this is a little wonky, but that's okay. You're allowed to shift this. So I'm just going to kind of straighten this out. That looks good to me. Make sure the screws are still okay. Yeah. And once this is nice and straight, go ahead and kind of push down on it with all your weight. You're crushing that wax ring inside, and that's going to fill in all the nooks and crannies, which is good. So yeah, just kind of put your hands on the side and push. Okay, so we're going to tighten down the toilet to the floor now. So to do that, these little white spacer caps came with the toilet, and they conveniently have this side up printed on here. You probably can't see it, but it's there. So that's going to go down first, followed by your metal spacer, and then a nut. So I'll do it on this side first so you can see. Well, hopefully. Sure. Okay. Okay, this is just finger tightened right now. And before I go and tighten down the bolt all the way, this is an important note. Remember how we got the longer screws? I'm pretty sure they're going to be too long for this cap to fit over. Let me just double check. Yeah, for sure. So before I tighten that down all the way, we're going to need to cut these bolts to make them a little shorter. And it's important, if you need to cut your bolts, do that before you tighten them all the way down. Otherwise, if they're completely tight and you go in with the bolt cutters, it's such a violent snapping action that you could actually crack your entire toilet. So only do it when it's just finger tight, and then we can go forward. So let me get the bolt cutters, and we'll do that. Y'all ready for this? Okay, I have no idea if I'm going to have the upper body strength to do this, but I've got our lovely bolt cutters, and I'm going to give it a shot. Is there any way I could sit on this?
No.
Okay, we've switched positions because I'm a weakling. And now let's see if I can show if this like spits back. Oh, look at you. You didn't even strain.
No, I know.
You know, you're supposed to at least make it look hard.
Sorry. Okay, that'll fit now.
Okay, so the bolts are cut by John because I couldn't do it. If you don't have bolt cutters, or if you're like me and don't have the upper body strength to do them yourselves, you can also cut them with a Dremel, possibly even like a hacksaw. John, what do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do it, it'd be hard.
You know, whatever you can think of, be safe to cut those bolts. Or even better, your hardware store will sell them the right size to begin with, and then you don't have to cut them off. Anyway, okay, so the bolts are cut, and I'm now going to torque down the nuts. Now, when you do this, don't put your whole body strength into it. You just want it reasonably tight. If you go too tight and get crazy with it, again, you could crack the bowl. This is very fragile and brittle. So, just gonna get in here and tighten these up, which is probably super boring to watch. Once your nut is torqued down, just go ahead and snap on these little plastic caps. While you're in here, this is just a quick little thing. Scrape off this little sticker. If you have any stickers on your bowl, take them off. As painters, we saw them on all the time, and 20 years later, believe me, they're really grody. So just get a razor blade and scrape this thing off. Now at this point, it's fully secured to the floor, but your bowl may rock a little bit. Ours is actually really secure, which is great, but yours might have some give. If it's just a little bit, don't worry about it, because later you're going to add grout or caulking around the base under there, and that will help secure it to the floor and settle any rocking. But if yours is rocking a lot, like if there's a lot of give to it, that means you're probably going to have to shim it up because your flooring is not level. They sell plastic shims for this at the hardware store. It's not a big deal. You just have to get some and shove them in there, and again, cover it up with grout or caulking at the end. Now next we're going to go ahead and put the tank on, so let me go grab that. Let's talk about the tank. I've set it up here so you can see the bottom and so you can see what I'm doing. First thing, this nut right here, this is for a plastic supply line. Now, this is super important. Ow, throw it away. Sorry. This is super important. Don't use a plastic supply line, I beg of you. Go and upgrade and get this. This is a metal braided rubber hose. These will never break. We've had friends' houses flooded because of plastic supply lines on toilets, so they never enter our home ever. This is what you want. Go to the hardware store and upgrade. And that's why I'm taking off that nut. This one has a better quality one here that's gonna screw in right there, okay? So that's the first thing. Second thing, this comes with the toilet. This is just a rubber gasket that's gonna fit right along the center here. You can see it's got a hexagonal shape there. So you just want that to fit on here. I won't make you watch me struggle with that, but that's gonna go there. And then the last thing we're gonna do is remove the wing nuts, because obviously those are gonna go on after we set it into the bowl. So I'm just gonna unscrew those wing nuts. So here's what the tank should look like when it's prepped to be installed. I am gonna go ahead and install the supply line. And this needs to just be finger tight. Don't get a tool, don't put your whole back into it. Finger tight is fine. Go. Okay, now we are ready to put this on the bowl. Now you're not gonna be able to see what you're doing, so you just kind of have to feel around. There we go. That's in. Is that it? It's in! Okay, we need to tighten the tank down next. So remember, we got our spacer and our wing nut that we're going to be going from underneath. Do it for finger tight at first, and then what you're going to be doing is pushing down on the tank while you're tightening that wing nut. That's going to compress the rubber bushing in there. John will try and get a close-up of the one on this side while I'm doing it. It looks super awkward. The tank is finger tightened down, and again, to do that, you're going to be pushing on one side and tightening underneath, and then pushing on the other side and tightening underneath. It's still going to have a little bit of give, a little wiggle. That's perfectly fine. That's normal. Just make sure it's, again, as finger tight as you can get it. All right, moment of truth is hooking up the water line. So you can see me finger tightening it here. Once that's finger tightened, go ahead and grab your wrench, and you're going to hang onto the valve with one hand and tighten with the other, and you want this nice and tight, okay? You're probably not gonna be able to see this with John filming, but just trust me, that's what I'm doing. Okay, we're gonna turn the water on and see if this works. The tank is filled with water, so now we're going to look for leaks. We're looking for leaks between the tank and the bowl, and we're looking for leaks around the water supply line. If you don't see any, if you think that looks good, which I will check, then we're going to flush the toilet and we're going to look for any leaks around the base. Okay, no leaks, so we're going to give it a flush and see if anything leaks out from under the bowl. Looks good. I don't see any leaks. Sweet! Okay, so we have a functioning toilet, so now it's the easy stuff. We're just going to put the tank lid on, and we're going to put the toilet seat on. Ooh. Don't use that. Do not use it. Okay, the toilet is complete. We have a nice, shiny, brand new, lovely, leak-proof toilet. The last thing you have to do is, again, either caulk or grout around the base of it. We're going to be doing that a little later when we have to do some tile work. But that is it. You've installed a toilet. Hope you guys enjoyed. As always, if you have any questions, hit us up in the comments and let us know what you want to see next on the Big Home Renovation.